There's a version of wanting something that doesn't really cost you anything. You think about it when you're comfortable. You imagine it when things are quiet. You return to it like a pleasant daydream, something warm to carry around without any real weight to it. And then life moves on, and the wanting moves with it, and nothing changes. Most people spend their entire lives in that version of wanting, not because they don't care, but because they've never felt the other kind. The other kind is different. It doesn't let you rest. It shows up in the morning before you're fully awake, and it's still there at night when everything else has gone quiet. It doesn't feel like a daydream. It feels like something already real that just hasn't arrived yet. That kind of wanting has a different name. It's not hope. It's not ambition. It's closer to a fire, something that generates its own heat and doesn't need you to keep adding fuel. Most people are a little afraid of it. And that makes sense, because it asks more of you than ordinary wanting does. It asks you to actually move. Not eventually. Now, think about something you say you want. Something you've been saying you want for a while. And ask yourself honestly, does it feel like a fire, or does it feel like a wish? Because the difference between those two things is the difference between a life that changes and a life that stays exactly as it is. A wish is something you hold. A fire is something that holds you. When a desire becomes that kind of fire, something shifts in the way you make decisions. Small things start to matter differently. Time starts to feel different. You stop being someone who wants a thing and start being someone who is moving toward it, and those are not the same person at all. The person who is moving toward something sees the world differently. They notice things the wishing person misses. Opportunities that were always there suddenly become visible. Not because the world changed, because their attention changed. This is something most people underestimate. Attention is not neutral. It's shaped by what you've committed to. And commitment shapes what you see. A person with a burning desire is essentially walking through life with a filter that catches everything relevant to where they're going. Person without it walks through the same world and catches almost none of it. That's not luck. That's attention, and attention follows desire. But here's the part that gets left out of most conversations about this. A burning desire is not just an emotion. It's not a mood you wait to be in. It's something you build, deliberate turning to it, feeding it, refusing to let it cool down when life tries to cool it down for you. And life will try. Constantly. The people around you, even the ones who love you, will offer you reasons to want less. To be more realistic, to protect yourself from disappointment by keeping your expectations manageable. They mean well. But manageable expectations produce manageable lives. And manageable is not what you're after. The moment you let someone else's comfort with your ambition become your ceiling, something important goes out. Not all at once. Gradually, you start editing your desire to fit what feels acceptable. You make it smaller, quieter, more reasonable. And then you wonder why it doesn't feel like a fire anymore. The fire dims when you stop feeding it. So what does feeding it actually look like? It doesn't look the way most people imagine. It's not about intensity every day. It's not about waking up every morning in a state of electrified motivation. That's not sustainable, and it's not necessary. It's about returning. Returning to the thing you want, clearly and specifically, every day. Letting it be real to you, even on the days when it feels far away. Holding it in your mind, not as a fantasy, but as a direction. As a destination that already exists, and you are simply in the process of reaching. That returning is what keeps the fire alive. Not dramatically, quietly, consistently. And that consistency does something to you over time that's hard to explain until you've felt it. It changes your baseline. The thing you're moving toward stops feeling like a distant dream and starts feeling like the natural next chapter. Your whole internal landscape reorganizes itself around it. Decisions get easier. Not because life gets simpler, but because you have a clearer sense of what serves your direction and what doesn't. Oh, stop wasting energy on things. that were never going to take you where you wanted to go. That clarity is one of the quiet gifts of a real desire. Not the result, the clarity. Long before anything has changed on the outside, something has already changed on the inside. And that internal change is where the external change begins. Most people have it backwards. They wait for external circumstances to change so they can feel differently on the inside. They wait for confirmation before they commit, but the commitment has to come first. The feeling follows the decision, not the other way around. This is hard to accept because it means there's a period, sometimes a long one, where you're fully committed to something that hasn't shown up yet, where you're treating a future thing as real before you have any evidence that it is. That period is uncomfortable. There's no way around that, but it's also where the work actually happens, where the desire gets tested and either survives or doesn't. The people whose desires survive that period are not the ones who felt most confident. They're the ones who return most consistently. Confidence fluctuates. Returning is a choice. There will be days when you don't believe in what you're building. Days when the distance between where you are and where you want to be feels embarrassing rather than motivating. On those days, you don't need to feel the fire. You just need to not extinguish it. You don't need to believe fully. You just need to not walk away. That sounds small. It isn't. Staying on days when you don't feel like staying is exactly when the difference gets made, because almost everyone stays on the good days. The good days don't separate people. The difficult ones do. And the thing that carries you through the difficult ones is not enthusiasm. It's the depth of the desire underneath the enthusiasm. The part that doesn't depend on the mood. That depth is what you're building when you return to your desire consistently. You're not just keeping a thought alive. You're building a foundation that doesn't shift when your feelings do. Over time, that foundation becomes something you can rely on. Something that holds you steady when the external world gives you nothing to stand on. People who have built that foundation look different. They move differently. There's a quality to them that's hard to name but easy to recognize. It's not arrogance. It's not certainty about outcomes. It's something quieter, a subtleness that comes from knowing what they want and trusting that they are genuinely moving toward it. That subtleness is attractive in every sense of the word. It draws people in. It opens doors. It creates the conditions for things to happen that couldn't happen when you are still uncertain about your own direction. This is why a burning desire is not just a personal experience. It's a signal, one that the world picks up on and responds to, often in ways you can't predict or plan for, not because of magic, because of how human beings respond to each other. We are drawn to people who have decided something, who are going somewhere, who aren't waiting to see how things turn out before they commit to the direction. That quality, that committed, quiet, forward-moving energy, is the real product of a desire that has become a fire. It's not something you perform. It's something you become, through the returning, through the staying, through the long, unglamorous work of keeping something alive inside you when everything around you is indifferent, or skeptical, or simply unaware. So the question is not whether you want something. You do. Everyone does. The question is what you're willing to do with that want. Whether you'll let it stay comfortable and cool and manageable, or whether you'll feed it until it becomes something that doesn't leave you alone. Something that wakes up with you. Something that changes how you move through a room. Something that stops being a dream you're hoping for and becomes a direction you're already traveling in. That shift is available to you. Not someday. No, not because the circumstances are right. Not because you finally have enough. But because you've decided that what you want is real enough to move toward, even before you can see how it ends. That's what a burning desire actually is. Not a feeling. A decision that keeps renewing itself. Every single day.